be a little creative today because I don't have a microphone, so you're just gonna have to deal with this. But conceptually, conceptually, also I'm cleaning today, so I don't have a lot of time to be talking. But we're just gonna be talking about the conceptualization process. This isn't any work that you have to do on your behalf as the listener. But sometimes I think that maybe it's not the process of decentralization that's necessarily like the detrimental part. It's how the decentralization is utilized, and spiritually and subconsciously by contemporary society, decentralization is used by, provocateurs, people who are just don't have the best interest in mind. They insert bad actors in positions where you know what I mean? It can be utilized to destroy something. But I think that you can also utilize it in the opposite direction by inserting good actors in positions, decentralize things further. And decentralization, in my opinion, from where I see it, is all like community building. You network is networking. Kind of like what Baudrillard, what he said about like the kind of like root system. I don't remember it. I'd have to think. There's a word for it, but how like everything is correlated to something else. You see a word, you see like it's contextual. I don't even know what to go with this one, but you see one word how it relates to another word. That's how you figure it out. Like yeah, I don't know. But anyway, going back to that, I think that like decentralization is utilized by a lot of like people. It's utilized pretty effectively by a lot of people, and it's really the utilization process. And I think that there is like a subconscious kind of barrier that we have to overcome as a society to kind of all like take back and reclaim what can be utilized by decentralized forces. You can't be utilizing them to create infighting and insert bad actors and have more, you know what I mean, like discourse and fighting. Decentralization to me, culturally speaking, is building a community network of many different factors where one thing isn't super important, but everything is important as a whole. Now we come back to the music of this conversation. I think that there could be a world where like dark ambient, industrial, power electronics, all of this stuff could exist in the mainstream. I think that the issue really comes down to that we don't live in the world that like the effort's been put in. I think that there's an alternate timeline where Throbbing Gristle was just as important as the Sex Pistols, based off of what Genesis George was talking about, how Genesis George was supposed to be the next Johnny Rotten. Punk rock took that, whatever. It's not necessarily just about the structure. It's what could be used for the commercialization and the branding. And early industrial artists took, into their mind that it wasn't about the branding, it wasn't about the commercialization, and they didn't let the art form be perverted by these outside forces. And sometimes I think that like if you want a community build off of this basic idea, like to me, it represents the ritual, it represents the subconscious, it represents the dreams. All of these things are very important things in overall society. You have stuff like David Lynch. You know what I mean? Like you have all of these different kind of weird films that are pretty popular. I don't know. But anyway, what sucks too is that like industrial isn't necessarily a performance based off of talent or discipline. Well, it is, but it isn't. It's in this weird limbo purgatory state that we can't really analyze it based off of law like objective truth. And people can analyze it all they want, but they can't analyze the abstractions that come through this. They can't emotionally weigh the atmosphere in their mind. They can't emotionally convey these things. You can have the most technical artist ever say, I can do that, and they cannot do that. I promise you. It's ridiculous to think that these coworker musicians could really make some good, dark ambient or whatever and not be the most boring thing you've ever heard in your life. But like people like boring. They want boring. They want technical. And it's just all like, why do that? It's so stuffy and pretentious. Now, me personally, I think that it comes from like a celebration of life. It comes from a celebration of the self and like the strong ways. It's just all like it's a tale as old as time that we come back and we reflect on these stories that we've processed through our entire lives through our own perspective. Me personally, it's really hard for me to concentrate a project to be like, super crazy and ambitious. It really is, you know what I mean? So, on that aspect, on that element, I do what I can do, and I think that this material isn't necessarily, just objectively bad or lazy. It's just the time wasn't invested. We don't, we didn't see a cultural period that reflected heavily on this material. They skipped right over it and they jumped into the goth club stuff. And dance music is way more easy to you know what I mean? Because it's like club. But anyway, I do think that there's another world where some of this stuff could have worked. Culturally speaking, I don't think we've peaked. I don't think that we've just hit like, you know what I mean, like the top of what we could. We've hit the top of what they've considered, right? The reason that music feels so stagnant in contemporary times and like the radio and stuff is just because they don't want to reach out. They want to use what works. They're combining all these ideas that have already been tried and tested, and they're trying to streamline the most popular genres all together. They don't really need to go out and create new genres. They don't need to go out and whatever. Anything could be popular. Anything. It's a matter of the attention investment. Most things are like that nowadays. If you think deep enough about it, most things could be important, right? It's all arbitrary. It's all arbitrary and it's always been arbitrary. Don't think you're above somebody just because you participate in the more trendy whatever, because it's like it's been predetermined. It's been predetermined by a select number of people. No matter how like small or niche you think your topic is, it's been predetermined. I promise you. And that's kind of the thing, right? It's a difficult one. It really is. I'm sorry about the audio for this one. I cannot find my microphone anywhere. I've been moving. Um, but yeah, no, it's just all like it's the investment. If I went out there and I played my material, nonstop in every part of the country for like the next like 5 years, I can make something happen, right? It's about consistency. It's about funding and shit. If the CIA got behind me and said, I like what you're doing, and I think that it's like important for the general philosophy of the people around you, I promise you I can make it work. Anyone can make this work. You just have to get authenticity. It's whatever, you know what I mean? It's just all like I know people get in their head like, oh, the things I like, whatever. That you have to play into the trends, and it's just because that's like been predetermined. That's been what's invested into, and there's like a measurement. Sometimes I think that like stuff that's easy to flood the market isn't going to get the attention that it needs because like again, if you can flood the market, like there can be some really good artists who can flood this market, and a lot of people wouldn't be any of the wiser. But anyone can really flood this market, so that's another reason why it's probably never going to get the investment it deserves or the attention it deserves because again, um, people think it's so easy, but you'll never replace some of these ideas. Anyway, it's weird. It's weird. Because you have to consider too. It's just all like the potential of reflecting certain ideas that are already like cemented in the mainstream. The easier it comes to you, the easier, you know what I mean, you can get into the mainstream. They're not necessarily creating new genres for these people. Ambition isn't really necessarily rewarded. It's about how you can align with the status quo that already pre-exists. But I do think that like there is a point where all of this is really arbitrary and anything could be anything. And I can sit here and talk about my ideas, but you know what I mean? It's kind of meaningless right now. But I just want to reflect on some of that real quick.